You're listening to the RMPodcast, the official podcast of Red Moon Productions. Here are your hosts, Brandon Davidson, Keith Cheatham, and Sean Sebastian. Enjoy.
Welcome to another episode of the Red Moon Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Brandon Davidson, alongside our normal new host,
Sean Sebastian.
And
Gunther!
Oh, he's
here to warn the world of her return. The return of Klaus.
What is he talking about?
She is there with her satanic candle. The candle she lights to collect the souls of the children that they force in their sweatshops to make the toys. They don't use elves. It's all lies.
We know who Tim Cook's been hiring.
They capture the children, and when the children are bad, they feed their toads to the elves. And the children with their little fingers work and sweat until they have nothing but nubs and bloody stumps making toys. And then they throw all the toys out just to laugh in the children's faces. Klaus and her evil depravity.
That's right. She's back right there. You could see her.
Can you see her
she
right
is
now?
just staring over that Red Moon sign. She is waiting for the children to watch.
Evil.
Protect your children. Don't let them see this. Really. They don't need to have their souls taken just before Christmas. And if you've watched the Christmas Chronicles 2, you know that's what it's all about. The evil Klaus Goldie Hawn.
Those are the elves that bite the toes off of children right there.
No doubt. I mean, when they come out of the woodwork, you're like, whoa. I mean, the first movie gave me the creeps because of that.
Yeah, that one always has that chainsaw. What do you think he uses
That
for?
was freaking creepy. He started wielding it, and I'm like, what in the world is this?
He was ready.
Elf massacre, man. I don't know what's going on.
They got cut them toes off.
No, yes, that's right. We've got our Christmas decoration. She's back. She looks innocent, but she's not.
She's not.
She is there waiting.
She's filled with hatred and satanical
And don't you worry.
evil.
Her light is not on right now, but at any point,
When the light comes on,
it could.
the souls
ignite.
come out.
Gosh. This is like, we need to make this into like a good cartoon, like a movie, like a scary cartoon. Kind of bordering like Muppets and like, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Something lighthearted until the end. You don't see it coming. She comes out of nowhere. She takes
Only
your soul.
if Glenn Close gets to play Mrs. Klaus. I would watch that 100%.
I think you said it. We've got our 2 reviews this week. We already mentioned one. Christmas Chronicles 2.
Hinted at another.
We're hinting at, obviously, Hillbilly Elegy, which both dropped on Netflix this past week.
I am super excited. I mentioned this yesterday, but Glenn Close has been a running joke on this show for years.
It really has.
And this is like the first
For
time.
no reason.
She came through.
But this is the first time in like 5 years we finally review a movie she's in, and she was really good.
For the longest time, we just showed the picture of her with carrots
in her mouth. That was the only thing. Hillbilly Elegy would have been perfect if they had one scene where she's shoving a bunch of carrots in her mouth.
Absolutely. And we know she did because of her background, okay? We know that they had her do that for show prep. All right, guys. But yeah, we've got 2 fantastic reviews, tons of headlines to get through. But yes, tonight is our first night in December, of course, kicking off all of our Christmas reviews. We've got 2 reviews every single week in December. We've got one that is Christmas and one that is a regular new release review.
And there's a running theme for Christmas this year.
We always have a running theme for Halloween
actually,
and for Christmas.
We kind of started last year, and we're keeping the theme idea going this year. So this year's theme is Famous Santas.
Yeah.
And so...
And we're starting with...
Well, do we want to tell... I think we teased them last week.
Yeah,
we should probably go ahead and let them know all the different Santas that we're reviewing.
This week, we did Christmas Chronicles 2. We reviewed the first one when it came out a few years ago. And, of course, that's Kurt Russell.
Who plays Santa in that one.
Santa,
He's the AAA star there.
Great. Next week, we have a new film with, he's maybe not AAA anymore, but once upon a time, Mel Gibson was huge, and he's still well known. Everybody knows who Mel Gibson is, whether he's still in that spotlight or not, but we have Fat Man next week.
Fat Man.
Which looks to be great,
it
whether
looks
it's
really
bad
good.
or not. It looks to be
just the fact that Mel Gibson is playing Santa.
It's
and it's a vengeful Santa.
It's a decent movie.
Yeah.
Oh, you've already seen it?
yeah,
Oh yeah, I had to watch
Sneak
it.
So
peek.
then after that, we have a little bit of a dip in quality. We'll
Dip?
get there when we get the review. But Fred Claus, which of course Paul Giamatti plays Santa in that movie.
And then, of course,
then-
lastly, saving the best for last.
The we always
Have
do a
to.
classic film on the holiday itself, and of course we haven't done this one yet. The Santa Claus.
Yeah, with Tim
I-
Allen.
That's
Tim
just so
Allen,
hard to
so-
believe.
It really
Yeah,
is. And we've got, obviously, all of our past reviews, old movies alike, new movies, and, of course, all of our holiday movies, all on our website, redmoonproductions.com. Go check it out there. But, yes, we are thrilled to kick it off. We are also, believe it or not, look at the screen. Can you believe it?
We're close.
We are close.
9-8.
That's it right there. 298. Boom. We're getting close to that big old 300. Got a lot of changes coming for the new
300
year. But
episodes.
300
That's
episodes.
crazy.
We've been on this for 5 years now almost.
Jesus,
That's insane.
That's
We've been
a
doing
lot
this
of
for
our
a long
life.
time.
wasted.
Wow. It really is. And we've dealt with Klaus for only about 3 of them.
Yeah.
All right, guys, I think we should get to it.
I think we should.
So instead, we're also we get to the holiday review after our normal new release review. So we're going to kick things off, of course, with it just dropped on Netflix. The highly critical or highly divisive, I should say, but you'll see our opinions. That is the movie Hillbilly Elegy. Let's get to it.
Steeped in just as much controversy as the book it is based on, this week we review one of Netflix's newest original films, Hillbilly Elegy. Based on the memoir of the same name written by J.D. Vance, the novel was an attempt at explaining the mindset and culture of Southern Appalachian residents, and the life lessons J.D. Vance learned growing up in said culture, as he fought hard to break the stereotypes and become a Yale graduate. Relatable to anyone who grew up in the area, and offensive to many outside it, the novel was a massive success, despite the controversy around it. The film, however, has not fared the same. Directed by Ron Howard and starring Gabriel Bezo as the adult JD, and Owen Astalos as his childhood self, with Amy Adams as JD's mother Bev, and Glenn Close as his grandmother Mama. The film had Oscar-level talent behind it, yet now holds a 27% on Rotten Tomatoes. So what happened? A difference in mindset seems to be the main culprit. Hillbilly Elegy is not a poorly made film by any means. Close as Mamaw is brilliant, and Adams, while a bit more stereotypical and cliche, still gives a solid performance when it matters most in the film. Howard plays with the memoir's narrative structure, bringing the crux of the film's plot to JD's Yale school days and flashing back to his childhood to create something more cinematic. And as a native of Kentucky, much of what I saw on screen was exceptionally relatable and true to the culture. Where the movie lacks isn't in its depiction of its characters or the story, but in the movie's delivery of the narrative and themes. Many who have rated the film low blame it for being overly stereotyped or else not PC, showcasing a white male who complains about his upbringing despite being a white male, or criticizing Adams and Close for playing stereotypes that are degrading to women. I can firsthand say these stereotypes are real, and these people do exist. In fact, the film's weakest moments are due to Hollywood's disconnect with anything close to resembling the lifestyles displayed in the movie. While showcasing a lot of truth when Howard simply couldn't relate, he does fall back on cliché. And much of the conservative themes Vance states openly in his novel are left as subtle ideas one can infer from the movie, rather than themes that drive the movie as they did the novel. The powerful story that comes from Hillbilly Elegy is one of self-responsibility, and striving to make the next generation better than the one before it. The movie displays some of these ideas offhand, but more so meanders around the story of the women in JD's life, whether it be his mother, mama, or girlfriend, rather than the life lessons and morals he developed having grown up and moved out of Appalachia. Howard's film isn't bad, but it does seem to miss the point a bit. Whether due to Howard's unwillingness to touch on topics Hollywood opposes, or because he so obviously has never a day in his life experienced the things he is filming, Hillbilly Elegy does lack the clear and positive message of the novel, for one a little more universal. Despite this, however, the film itself has done nothing wrong. And while I do think it suffers in part due to the loss of these themes and a shoddy narrative structure from Ron Howard, it should still resonate with many viewers, especially that of the average working Joe. And even more than that to those who grew up in Kentucky and the South. I give Hillbilly Elegy 3 out of 4 stars.
All right, guys.
Where's the banjo music? That's what I'm looking for.
Hey, that was our lovely Hans Zimmer there. And I forget the other guy.
That
that he's
banjo
with.
music.
Is that stereotypical?
Well, I was thinking.
That's West Virginia. I
Yeah,
think.
yeah.
Down, 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 down,
Yeah.
down,
You know
down.
what I'm
That's
talking about.
yeah.
Yeah.
You're talking about the gosh, why
Dueling banjos.
No, but why am I forgetting the movie? title?
Deliverance?
Deliverance.
Yes.
Gosh, I blanked.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's start off with this review because clearly 3 out of 4 stars.
Clearly, something's amiss because
we didn't go along with the critics.
It has a 20-something% on Rotten Tomatoes. Here's the thing. I mentioned in the review it has a 27% from critics. What I didn't mention in the review though is the user score is at 80-something%.
That's more like it.
Yep, and I think that's about right. And it was actually lower than that when I saw it originally because I looked and it was like 74%. So it's gone up
Yeah.
the more people have watched it since it's been out.
So the average viewer is actually enjoying the movie.
Yep.
Critics hate it. And why is that?
I don't know. It couldn't be because, well, these hillbilly hicks, and they don't deserve any kind of,
One thing I've noticed
Credit.
from reading a lot of, because I like to, when I write my review, I like to go back and read other reviews and kind of get an idea of like why critics hated it. Because I watched the movie and I'm like, this movie's not bad. I mean, it's not the best. It's not, I think, an Oscar-worthy movie, but it's not bad by any means. Not a 27%. So I like to go back and read and see like what did they hate about it, and almost everything they hated was purely political. And I'm like, this really isn't a political movie. You hate it because they say, well, they said the lead character is unlikable. He's a white male who graduated from Yale yet wants to act like he had hardships. And I'm like, I mean, he did have
Yeah,
hardships.
Act
Yeah.
like it. Yeah.
He had them. And then, of course, they say, and they make the matriarchs out to be these villains. And I'm like, well,
No, they don't really.
yes,
They
those
do and
stereotypes
they don't.
exist. And one thing I would say the movie doesn't show is some of the male stereotypes from the book. But that's because most of the influence J.D. Vance had was from his mother and grandmother. And while he does mention some of the bad things his grandfather did and the horrible things some of his uncles had done, they weren't who influenced him the most. So, of course, his mother and Mamaw take center stage. And he explains very clearly in the book, which I feel like the movie doesn't do as well, is that he's not trying to paint them to be villains. He said they did bad things, but they also did really good things, and he loved them all the same. And that's reality. People do bad things and people do good things. None of us are perfect.
Right.
And especially coming from that area, Mamaw growing up and being from Appalachia and being from Kentucky myself, I have family members exactly like her.
No doubt.
And for them to be like, well, that's unrealistic. It's like, I'm sorry. That just
you
shows
don't understand.
Yeah,
That's
Well,
it's the disconnect,
and
that
that
they
was-
don't understand that yes, these people are real and exist.
I actually went over to my parents' house, and when I came in to visit, they were in the middle of it, and they paused it, and I noticed it. Of course, I just finished it, and so I asked them. I was just like, hey, what do you all think? And my mom's just like, well, I don't really have to think much about it. I lived it, and and it was this realization of just I don't have much. Many ties to that kind of lifestyle because what my parents did when they left that lifestyle.
Yeah.
When they chose to say no, we're going to do the same thing. His grandmother
his-
tries to
his
do in
family
the
tried to
movie
do, yeah.
to move to Ohio, and so my parents are like, no, we're going to make a better life for ourselves. And one thing that just resonated with me and with this story is exactly I have so many people, not exactly like this in the movie, but there are a lot of close ones. And even for those, it's like a lot of them are because I don't live close to so much of my family anymore. And it's like we live in Louisville. We don't live,
you don't live down south,
south
yeah,
or way east in Appalachia. We don't do that. Or we don't live there. But it's like I think what was interesting about this film and the way I kind of saw it was this situation of when I saw the critical reviews and I saw, again, we've pointed this out before specifically about when there's such a gap in between critical reviews and audience scores. The interesting part is usually I tend to always go with the audience in that regard because it's like the critics are missing something. And in this, I'm sitting here and I'm thinking if any one of these critical reviews mentions anything about white privilege, I wanted to sit. I mean, I could easily just sit there and think of this nonsense off the top of my head. And I'm like, it takes college Ivy League educated people to sit around and watch this movie and completely dismiss anything they can learn from it because they believe, it's like if there's any white privilege out there, it's those college-educated Ivy League types.
Mm-hmm.
And it's people like JD who go there and prove to them you can come from any kind of background, and you can still take away lessons learned from book smarts and from street smarts.
Go ahead. I was just going to say, I think you see a glimpse of that in the film, especially when he sits down to dinner with these Ivy League folks.
Yeah.
And the one guy, he's actually, I can't think of his name, but he's in the show Billions that me and my wife watch. He's a jerk in that show, and he starts off as a jerk in this movie. But when he says, like, well, it sounds like maybe your mother should be the one sitting here.
Yes.
He got that little that snarky, like, smart ass comment in, and it definitely did make them out to be the villains, because here they are even correcting themselves for offending him, but then the other guy comes and you think he's going to take JD's defense, but instead
He puts in a dig himself.
He puts in a dig himself, and I'm like, that's who these people are. They really can't get beyond their own lives to see where other
Yes.
people may have come from.
And they somehow
can't-
dismiss that anything good can come from that.
Yeah.
Well, they can't fathom that. They think, oh, these are just redneck or hillbillies, because like he said, we don't use the term redneck from Kentucky. And
Now, I'll be honest, I use the term redneck.
redneck.
Well, we do.
Yeah, we use it all the time. So
Doesn't
it's
offend me.
No
Yeah.
offense.
But it's funny because even in the novel, a lot of the theme, which I felt like Ron Howard kind of left out, is this sense of self-responsibility, and that a lot of the people that are in the situation they're in from Appalachia is because they don't want to take responsibility for their own actions, and they want to blame everyone else and say, like, it's
Like
not
his
my
mom.
fault, so I'm just
Yeah.
going to sit here and collect government money because I've done nothing wrong. But at the same time, that they won't try to better themselves. And that got a lot of criticism as far as the novel went, that people were mad at him for saying that. But he said, but I did. I worked hard and proved that, if you do take responsibility for yourself, you can make something of it. And then, of course, they shot back, well, you graduated from Yale because you're a white male with privilege. He's like, okay, then why don't these people down here have that same privilege? Well, that's because of their circumstances. And it's like, but you can't have it both ways.
Yeah,
you
and
can't
yeah,
say that they're
He started from the same
Yeah.
circumstances and
Yes.
moved forward.
Well, and I think that's always what's amiss when you start to hit on these very pointed arguments. Is it's like what you're missing is the ability to grow beyond and outside, and maybe it's not within the same
We do
generation.
have a viewer, Michael
Oh,
Werner, who says
yes.
he's watching it right now and then asks, can he call in?
Oh, Michael, I would love for you to call in. I know Michael Werner.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
a good friend. And, oh, man, I don't have the phone hooked up. But I would love to hear an email from you.
We'll have to get,
Yeah.
You
Email
can
or
email
keep
us
commenting.
and tell us what your thoughts are.
Yeah.
And we would love to talk about it on the show. And, yes, please send us your thoughts. That'd be fantastic.
Absolutely.
Brian says you have a-
RMPodcast at redmoonproductions.com.
Brian says you have a redneck neighbor. So
This is true.
That is very true. I mean,
We're all a little redneck.
we all are.
Yeah.
Well, especially down here in the South.
But I did like the movie. My problems with the movie stem from, I felt like there are certain instances where you could just tell Ron Howard, being another person of privilege,
Right.
doesn't get it. Like, there's starts where he does a really good job, but then there's also parts where I feel like he kind of falls back on the stereotypes because he doesn't really know any better, because it's like he can't fathom what this kid came from.
Right.
And I don't, it's not necessarily bad, but there's certain moments where I felt like they leave a lot of strong themes from the book out of the movie. And it's either because Ron Howard just doesn't understand that because he's not from it, or because they are a little bit more political in a way that Ron Howard disagrees with. He didn't want to make that controversy within the
Right.
film, so he left it out.
Well-
and both, I feel, are kind of crappy.
there's a lot of strong themes in the movie that go completely against the mindset or agenda that one political side would. I mean, even the grandma telling him, like, those are no longer your friends. You're not
Yeah.
going to hang out with people like that.
Yes.
See,
Yes.
it's
That's
one
exactly
side would say,
my mother
well,
or
those are the
grandmother.
people you should be. Everybody's different. Everybody has their own problems, and but it's just like, no, if you hang out with people like that, that's who you're going to become.
Yeah.
And she even points out, like, you're going to be into drugs, you're going to be in jail.
Yes.
If that's kind of people you hang
Yeah.
out with, and you're going to be like your mom.
Right.
And
Well,
I
and was
love
gonna say,
that.
if there's one criticism I could give the movie, it was because I haven't read the book, and that's why I was so interested. Because Keith, I know you read it right before you watched it and
Yeah.
reviewed it. I mean, it was literally like a 3-4 day read.
It's not a huge book. It's
No.
only like 230 pages. So,
Right.
So luckily it was small, because otherwise I probably wouldn't have.
But for me, one criticism that I had specifically for the film was it was the odd, story, telling nature. The fact that there were just certain things and elements from jumping from point to point, especially, I watched it twice.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, and I actually did like it better the second time around when I knew how the story was going to end up. And I think that was the weird part. Is it's fine because it doesn't really guide you along. You don't know all the parts of his life, and because it is a memoir, you are kind of left with, okay, well, there is a little bit of mystery here because anything could happen, you know. And there may be some people who kind of go into the movie not knowing that it's based on real events.
Yeah.
And it's not really till you get to the credits that you're like, oh, he's got home videos playing. Like, oh, this is actually like, and let me tell you, Glenn Close, like,
Oh, yeah.
to a T.
That's what you said. It's not an Academy Award-winning film, but she gave an
I will
Academy
say-
Award-winning performance.
I think
So
she
she
is
was
the
great.
one.
I just
one
meant the
actress.
film as a whole.
No,
not just on
I
her,
understand what you meant.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, as far as best actor. Oh yeah,
But
Good Lord.
definitely some parts in the film where the way in which the narrative is told, and it kind of jumps back between younger JD and older JD. One thing I really appreciated about the second time I watched it was there are certain ways in which JD acts as an adult that you don't quite see the full range of him until you kind of see a scene as him as a kid. And then, like, maybe he gets a little angry, and that anger comes out, and then you see him as an older guy, and then he's, like, on the phone with his girlfriend, and he yells at her, and, you know, because he's impatient or he's frustrated. And you can kind of, like, one thing I liked was how he did weave together you understanding where JD was at in his older life and seeing a little bit of that, you know, when he was younger and how it evolved into who he is as a person
like part of that
today.
structure that he had as an older person came from being a Marine, which
Yeah.
it doesn't show enough of.
It doesn't.
And I understand how that might not play into the film maybe as much as it did in the book, but I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of him becoming the man that he was because of the Marines. Because
There's a lot of aspects of like things from the book that influence who he became as an adult, because that's kind of the entire point of the novel is how these things from his childhood and these Appalachian ideals and morals and rules that all these people are very strict by, just like with his grandmother and peeing in the pea cup for his mom. Like those are all just very grounded.
Yeah.
And you do anything for your family, whether it's right or wrong, because it's family.
Yep.
And that is a very Appalachian mindset.
Or just Southern. I think it's a very
Yeah, so,
Southern
I mean-
hillbilly
And
mindset.
they give you that right at the beginning of
Yeah.
the film when the kids are fighting. It says we take care of our own, we have each other's
Yeah.
back.
Yes.
And even
And-
when the grandfather dies and the people in the town are
All
standing
standing.
out in the
Yeah.
road
I
taking their hats off
loved
and
that
everything.
scene.
Yeah.
Loved that scene.
And it's those things that there's kind of more of that show his influence as an adult that I felt like the movie lacked. That I really, and I know there's only so much time in a movie to display everything, but I really felt like you didn't really get as good a core of adult JD because some of those things were missing.
Yeah. And I think, but here's the weird thing is, and I think this is one of those movies where, for one, it was even created because of the wide popularity of the book in the first place.
Yes.
But I think anybody who has not checked it out and sees the Netflix movie and then wants to learn more or knows it's now about a true story of a real memoir about this guy, I think it will encourage them to go and pick up the book. And I think it's at least a good enough movie that if you're from this part of the world, then you know what it is like to live in these circumstances. You have people and members in your family who are just like a lot of the people that are showcased in this film.
Yeah.
But it's also, it serves as a purpose to say there is more to deep dive. There is a lot more. I mean, I know the fact that, the Marines is a huge missed part because a lot of his discipline as an older, adult comes from having been in the Marines. And that's where a lot of his structure comes from.
Yeah.
And so, of course, you can get that from reading the book. But I think a lot of the overarching themes and the message that comes across from what the book is trying to tell is told in this movie.
Yeah,
And I think
I
it
see
does
it.
a fine job in it.
I see a lot of different films in this movie or relation to some of the film. And if you've seen Rudy and you love that movie, and if you've seen October Sky and you love that movie,
Yeah.
these are stories about real people that defied the odds and lived what I consider the American dream. Isn't to become rich and do this. It's to start from nothing and
Yeah.
and
Make it
evolve
somewhere,
into
yeah.
something. Yeah,
Well,
to make it
it's
into
to
something.
rise above what your circumstances
Exactly.
are.
Yeah,
you know?
and I think movies like that give you that feel good. They make you proud to be in this country and in a place where
shows
they
it
can make that possible.
Happen when there's so many people telling you that the American dream only exists for the privileged few,
No.
and no matter what you
It
do,
exists
you
for
can't.
those who
and-
are willing to do
yes,
what they need to
and
do
that,
to get
that
it.
overall, it was kind of JD's point is that anybody can do it if they're willing to try and put in the effort. And yes, some people have more of an advantage than others. I mean, you can't say that they don't. That
Yeah.
does exist. But if you take responsibility for yourself and do everything in your power to better yourself, you find that you can.
But just the fact that that's what he's leaving behind for other people, that he got that from his grandmother, though.
Yes.
So it's
Yes.
like
Well,
she left it behind for him, and I think that part of the film shows the importance of how we look towards our elders even for the advice. It's if we're getting bad advice, then we're going to have bad lives. If we're getting good,
and I think
wholesome advice like
It's
that.
about the
message-
mindset you're taught. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. You see that mindset that's carried on from, and I loved there is a very narrative, it's kind of disjointed at first. First time I saw it, I liked it better the second time, and that is kind of the jump from the mother having an influence in his life to his grandma having an influence.
Yep.
And that was where Glenn Close shined, and that
Oh,
was
yeah.
a part where I was very thrilled when we got to that point because it started to showcase the really definitive action that you can take, but also the realistic nature at which you have to understand, change in a person's life is not done in just one person's lifetime.
No.
It is a generational change.
Mm-hmm.
And it started with his grandma just running to a dream bigger than what she could ever achieve in Ohio. And it took two. In this film and in this kid's life, luckily, it only took 2 generations to get to JD, where he is now a Yale Law School graduate.
And that's-
but who knows where his kids are going to go. And now they have an even bigger mountain to climb. And yet a bigger starting point.
But that's the point, and I think that's a lesson that a lot of people have lost. Is that the point is, as one generation, you're supposed to try to teach and make better the second generation. Right. And nowadays, people are so selfish that they're not worried about what they leave behind. They're like, well, that's their problem. They'll deal with it in the future. It's like, no, the point is to try to make something better for the next generation, so that humanity as a whole can continue to evolve and be better than what we were in the past.
That's true.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think this movie more than aptly tells that narrative.
Ah.
And it's worth checking out. So definitely check out, Hillbilly Elegy, 3 out of 4 stars. All right, guys, I think we're ready to move on to, our
think
next
we are.
review. Get back into the Christmas reviews. Here we are. This is our review of The Christmas Chronicles 2.
We're full up on stuffing, turkey, and potatoes, and are ready to spend the rest of 2020 basking in the joy of Christmas. Christmas has a way of showcasing the best aspects of humanity and bringing out the good in people. With a year like 2020, we could all use a bit of Christmas spirit. With this said, what better way to celebrate the season and spread Christmas cheer than by celebrating a figure that encompasses these ideals for people all around the world? I speak, of course, about one of Christmas's biggest icons, Santa Claus. This year we review the films with the biggest actors to put on the red suit, starting with Kurt Russell and Netflix's original sequel, The Christmas Chronicles 2. Starring, of course, Kurt Russell as Santa, The Christmas Chronicles 2 is directed by Chris Columbus, who had produced the first film originally. This time around, the story's focus centers on Kate Pierce, once again played by Darby Camp. Kate, her brother Teddy, and mom Claire, played by Judah Lewis and Kimberly Williams Paisley respectively, are spending their Christmas vacation on the beaches of Mexico with Claire's new boyfriend Bob and his son Jack, played by Tyrese Gibson and Jazier Bruno. Kate is unhappy with the situation as she misses their family's normal Christmas traditions, and also fears that her mother dating Bob means she has forgotten about her late father. Meanwhile, at the North Pole, ex-elf Belle Snickle, played by Julian Dennison, hatches a plan out of jealousy over Santa and Mrs. Claus to ruin Christmas forever and create a new workshop at the South Pole. Soon, Kate and Jack find themselves thrust into an adventure to save Christmas and, of course, learn valuable life lessons. For those who enjoyed the first Christmas Chronicles film, I do not think the sequel will disappoint. While definitely more over the top than the first, the sequel does maintain the same heart the first had while delivering a message that is on par with the first's, though not pulled off with quite the same level of emotion. While the original dealt with Teddy's loss of faith and his downward spiral as he chose to deal with the loss of his father in a negative way, the sequel is more lighthearted, but still tackles serious subjects dealing with Kate's fear that moving on means forgetting her father, and new character Jack's fear of pretty much everything as he learns to find confidence in himself. Where the movie fails is pretty much where the first did too. The story is cute and the theme's well done, but the movie is at times overtly silly, with comedic moments being too outlandish and slapstick to elicit laughs from adult audience members, though the kiddos will love it. The sequel leans into the more outlandish side of the first, offering us a story that takes place more in the North Pole than the last. showcasing more of the elves, more Santa, and more Mrs. Claus, who only got a brief cameo in the first. Kurt Russell and Goldie Hawn as Mr. and Mrs. Claus are still a delight to watch. Yes, they too are often over the top, but Kurt Russell's over-the-top Santa was the highlight of the first film, and he again steals every scene in the sequel. The film's dialogue and writing are also lackluster, which is most evident in any line delivered by Tyrese Gibson, and in the villain Belsniggle's motivation. Acting for most of the cast is lackluster all around, but again, Kurt Russell's scene-chewing more than makes up for it. The film ultimately is more of the first with a deeper focus on the mythology of Santa and the North Pole, making the sequel even less grounded than the first, allowing for the worst aspects of the original to be on greater display. This, however, doesn't necessarily make for a worse film, as the cast and crew go all in, creating something that still has charm, even if quite silly. It's not the best family Christmas movie ever made, but it's well worth the watch for what it is and will definitely delight children. I give The Christmas Chronicles 2.5 out of 4 stars.
Well, you can tell I used the
2.5.
I used the same thumbnail and image.
If you would have pointed it out, nobody would have noticed it.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
I
They wouldn't
noticed. I didn't notice until you said something.
What do you mean?
I don't know what you're talking about. It's gone now.
It is gone. Oh, I got it. Oh gosh.
Oh, what
We're
is
having a
going on?
glitch because I'm trying to fix this.
He's trying to fix things.
'Cause
Oh,
it's
man.
It didn't
Oh
work
my
at the
God.
end.
So
Hey, it's-
Christmas Chronicles 2.
yeah. What about it?
Honestly, I mean, it's a fine family film. Kids are going to love it.
Yeah.
Um,
I've seen it 12 times.
Are you serious? You
Oh,
already
yes.
watched
They
it?
watch
that
it every
much?
day.
I didn't dislike it. I enjoyed it for what it was. It held my attention. I thought it was. There were parts of it that I thought were hilarious.
Yeah.
Parts that were absolutely terrible, but were still hilarious. And honestly, I got Kurt Russell as Santa Claus. He was terrific as Santa in the first. He was terrific in this one. And as long as Kurt Russell can just be this kick-ass Santa, I'm happy.
No, I agree. It was
Not that it didn't have problems.
It wasn't
had
just
plenty.
more of the same.
Yeah.
It was a little bit too more of the same.
I'd say
But
its biggest
I did-
flaw is it wasn't as emotional as the first. I mean, it still
True.
tackled some good subject match themes.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I laughed like
just
crazy.
not as.
There were
Yeah.
lots of parts where I was just like, "What?" Like when Jola, this weird like wild cat,
Yule
looking,
cat?
the Yule cat.
Oh yeah, the Yule
pops
cat.
out. I was like,
It is
"What?
terrible.
What
Yeah.
the hell
Terrible.
is this?"
Yeah,
And
my
I
wife
was
and I laughed at it too, but not because it was funny.
Best scene. Kurt Russell grabbing it by the tail
And swinging it.
I was like, I am all
That's
for
it for
this.
you, Yule Cat.
Yeah.
See ya, Jola.
Well, see, and that's what I think is so
Anything
funny.
Kurt Russell does is just automatically epic.
Well, everything in this movie was solved like within 2 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
Like they
But
build
then it
up
was
this-
on to the next
Kurt
problem.
Russell.
Yeah,
There's
but
way
and
too
that-
many problems.
It
in
was
this
like
movie.
they give the one kid like what is a snowman cookie and a was it a reindeer?
It was a gingerbread
Cookie?
man.
a gingerbread
Oh,
man.
The gingerbread man exploded.
That's
the
right.
snowman gave you courage.
See,
but it
I won't
really
s-
didn't.
Well, I wasn't going to spoil it. But
well,
the courage was inside of him all along.
All along.
There's one spoiler.
there's life lessons to be learned in
Like,
this movie.
it did,
Okay,
here's the
Like-
thing, it did have good morals and lessons. It just was very over the top, silly, and full of bad moments.
well, like you said, so much more of this film was mentioned or was like taking place in the North Pole.
Yes.
And it was like I remember in the first movie when these animated elves come on the screen, I'm like, wow, I was not expecting this. Where'd this come from?
Yeah.
Kind of like out of left field. And then in this movie, it just goes
Full elves.
completely overboard.
Yes.
But at the same time, I can't help. Like, I'll be honest. The fact that they even brought in the star above Bethlehem.
The Star of
Oh,
They,
Bethlehem.
I
they
like
say
that,
it, and I'm like,
yes.
wow. I was
I
like,
was
that's a little
surprised.
surprising. Like,
Yeah.
that's kind of more,
the
at
star
least
of
religious.
Yeah, the Star of Bethlehem
Yeah.
and the whole like how the North Pole started. Like there were aspects of it that I was like, I liked like the mythology they created. I was like, this is really interesting and kind of a cool Santa story that hasn't really been done before with like the Star of Bethlehem. But then they also had just like the really silly and dumb parts, and I'm
Yeah.
like, you have this really cool idea, but then you have these terrible elves that make me not be able to take it seriously.
Let's talk about probably the one part of this film that is by far the best and can't be topped, and that's Tyrese Gibson.
Oh yes,
Yes.
Tyrese Gibson.
When he sings at the end.
yes.
Like I said, I texted you guys and just said, wait till the end. He's like,
Oh, Christmas tree. It's Christmas Chronicles 2, bitches. We haven't. I should have. I mean,
Well, I was
Tyrese
gonna
should have
say,
sent us a review.
I was
of
waiting
Christmas
for a
Chronicles
review
2.
from Tyrese Gibson.
He did the Fast
I'm
and the
sorry.
Furious reviews for
You
us.
can't tell me,
Man.
no offense, they cast a black dude named Bob. I mean, as soon as they mention, Bob
Yes,
over there,
Bob.
and it shows Tyrese
Tyrese
Gibson.
Gibson. I
just like,
died
what
laughing.
He
is
was
this?
like, no, it's the guy behind him. It's got to be the guy behind
This
him.
is how I knew I was going to like the movie. Is as soon as they showed
Yeah.
Tyrese Gibson, I was like, this movie's
is
not-
great.
It's going to have really bad
Yeah.
moments, but it's going to be great.
Wait,
because
does he
we're
have kids? Does
Yeah,
Tyrese Gibson
I
have
think
kids?
he does. I'm
'Cause
not
it-
sure.
Let's just say he can't play a father.
Oh no,
Because
he's
he
terrible.
has no idea how to
Yeah.
act
He's-
like a father.
He was he delivered his lines like I said, like Mark Wahlberg from The Happening. It was very whiny, very.
Oh, yeah.
It's okay, son.
Yeah.
And I'm like, he's
I
terrible.
swear to you, like, no offense, when he gets done with
He's
this
like,
little speech,
I know your mother's dead.
Pats him,
I'm just
pats
like-
him on the
I
back.
was like, what?
well, when he
father?
pats him on the head,
Yeah.
he literally does this. He's just sitting there, and he's like,
yeah.
I swear he won't
Just, like,
stop.
beating the
he
kid's
won't
brains
Come on,
out.
He
son.
won't stop till he like walks
I'm like,
away.
he's a horrible father.
Yeah.
It's like, I know your mother's dead, but you're gonna be okay.
It's gonna be okay, son.
Oh.
No, I honestly I thought it was fun. I kept laughing throughout the whole thing, whether it was because of something that was funny or the movie was funny.
Yeah.
And was laughing at it. But I will say, I don't know. I've already told y'all this. If I like Jailhouse Rock better or Airport Jamboree. I thought
They're both.
the
They're
spirit
both
of
great.
Christmas in this was pretty fantastic. And
Oh.
he got, I mean, Boston in the
See.
1990s.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
I
I
thought it
liked
was-
I liked the Jailhouse song a lot better.
I liked
Okay.
that, but I liked both. I thought they were well done. It was Kurt Russell, and I actually did like. Why do I want to spoil the moment between her and the boy at the airport? That little. I
Yes.
saw it coming. Like
Yeah,
as soon as
yeah.
like he mentioned, "Oh, you're a true believer too." I was like, I know who that is.
Yep.
And I won't spoil it, but it was still done well.
It was that, and it was one of those softer moments that paid off.
But didn't you
and I
feel
was
like
glad
it
that they
wasn't
had it.
emotional enough? Like I just didn't.
For what it was,
Exactly.
There
it
were
was-
things that happened in the first movie, like the end of the first movie draws a tear.
Really?
But yeah,
Nothing about
See,
the first
I
movie
didn't
makes
think
The
I
I didn't
ornament,
think-
the ornament.
Yeah,
didn't-
no.
nothing. Wow.
No,
Nothing.
I mean it was
I-
good.
wow.
It was a good moment, but I didn't think it was any better than this moment.
I
was
didn't
just like
either.
because they were all kind of cliche and cheesy, but I was like, that's good. I like
Yeah.
it. So I mean,
I just
don't know.
all I
Yeah.
know is I was happy throughout, and I kept waiting to see what was going to happen next because, once Jola popped up on screen, I was like, I don't know what I'm going to get.
Yeah.
And I was kind of like, I'm in
No,
for
no.
a ride.
For
Let's do
me,
it.
it was the very beginning when the fat kid from Deadpool 2 popped up on screen.
Yes.
And I'm like, if he's in this, there's no telling what's
Hey,
about
Well,
to happen.
there's so many there were so many things in this movie that I kept me and even Amelia, who doesn't really she can watch a movie and miss 30 different plot holes in a movie. It doesn't pay attention. And right at the start, he's on the golf cart and he flings them off into the portal and drives away. And the next thing you know, he's there with them,
Yeah.
hiding behind a rock. I'm like, she goes, he didn't go through the portal. How'd he get there?
he can open a portal whenever.
Then
He
why
just-
didn't he just go through
I
when
don't
they
know.
went through?
I don't know
didn't wanna
why
take
he
the
didn't
golf
just-
cart through.
It's
with
just
him,
you're trying to
okay?
explain.
It didn't make any
stupidity.
sense. It didn't.
You
But
can't-
but it was at a time in the movie where I was like, I don't care.
At this
I-
already, you
as,
don't
soon
care.
as,
that point-
soon as the
Yeah.
portal opened, I was like,
Yeah.
That was after Tyrese Gibson. Anything after Tyrese Gibson,
Yeah,
I
it
was
all
like,
I was
downhill
in.
from there.
I was in.
Yeah.
I was
So,
sold.
I gave it 2. I didn't give it 2.5.
I gave it 2.5.
can't go that high.
I gave the first one 2.5.
I was gonna-
I would agree with the first one.
So I gave them both 2.5.
I was actually going to go 3, but after hearing the review, I was like, well, because I had fun. I
Okay,
had
well,
fun
hey,
watching
it's
this.
I had
to
fun.
each his own. Yeah,
I had
But
fun
I'm
too,
sticking with
but
2.5.
in
I
good
like it.
conscience, I was like, I had fun. It's a fun family film, but it's not good enough to get anything.
Well,
over
and when you
2.5.
told me you the first one was 2.5 and you reviewed it that way, I was like, it's not better than the first.
No.
I was like, I can't say it's better than the first. So I was like, I can't go higher than the first.
Yeah.
So
one.
here's you mentioned during the review,
Yeah.
and I had to look this up because I was very curious. Because Chris Columbus, who produced the first,
Yeah.
and he produces a lot of stuff now more so than directs, but he did direct this, and I was like, wow, what's the last thing? Like the last, truthfully, honest to God, good movie he directed was Mrs. Doubtfire in 1993.
Yeah.
So here's
That's been a
what
long
he's
time.
Yeah.
directed since then. He did Bicentennial Man in '99.
That one wasn't terrible.
It wasn't terrible,
but it
but
was
it-
way too long.
Yes.
Yeah.
He did the first 2 Harry Potter movies, which I know some people are like, what are you talking about? Those were great.
No.
He
I'm
did,
sorry. The first
he did-
Harry Potter's boring too.
He did Christmas. Well, he only produced that one, so I won't say. It was Christmas with the Cranks, but I do notice he only produced that. So he did Rent, which I know a lot of people love, but again,
No.
yeah.
No.
Mm-mm.
I
no.
love you,
No.
Beth Cooper.
I don't
He-
even remember that
he
one.
direct-
I remember
That's
the
the
chick
one
from that
with
movie.
Hayden Panettiere.
Yes, Hayden- yeah.
Oh,
it's
wow.
like the rom com, like
Yes.
terrible.
Oh
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Okay. Yes.
I was shocked he directed that because that's not his type of film at all. But whatever. He did the first and only Percy Jackson film. I think it was the
Oh.
only 'cause it
yes.
bombed. And he directed Pixels.
There's 2 Percy
Where did-
Jacksons.
Is there 2 movies?
Yes.
I know there's several books, but they didn't make it very far in the film series before
There's
it
the
crapped out.
Olympians, and then there's the Lightning.
Okay,
Okay,
Thief
the
or
Lightning
something.
Thief is the
Yeah.
one he directed.
Okay.
So he directed the last one after Chris Columbus got done with the series. They're like, no.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was like
That-
we know it's not going to
Yeah.
work.
So I don't know what happened to Chris
been
Columbus.
out. Well, you have some of those directors like Ron
I
Howard.
mean, he did Home Alone.
who just did Hillbilly Elegy that are kind of. We even thought about it before we reviewed it. We were like, this could be hit or miss because Ron Howard's had some
Yeah, he's been
also
rocky.
sketchy stuff lately as well, depending on the movie and depending on the story.
Honestly, though,
Yeah.
I mean, Solo was good.
Yeah.
This was decent. So
Yeah.
we are seeing him kind of come back and do
Well,
better
M.
things.
Night for the
So-
longest time. We've only recently seen him get back into it, but it wasn't until The Visit, and that was after you had
Well, that was After Earth.
Lady in
After
the Water,
Earth,
After
Lady
Earth,
in the Water.
The Happening.
Listen, I don't
was just
lump Lady in the Water
god-awful.
in with The Happening, Last Airbender, and After Earth.
Oh, Last
Last
Airbender.
Airbender
Yeah,
was awful,
because even
too.
though Lady in the Water was bad, it was
It was
another
still
one.
M. Night.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
like, I
it
still,
still
had fun,
felt like M. Night.
Like I had a lot of fun watching Lady in the Water, even though it wasn't a pretty good movie.
I had a lot of fun watching The Lady in the Water.
His daughter.
The Happening, Last Airbender,
Oh,
and
wait,
After
Ron
Earth. are
Howard's
just
daughter.
Ron Howard's daughter.
Those might be the 3 worst movies I've ever seen, honestly.
I wouldn't be.
Oh, The
Happening-
Happening's absolutely
it's-
terrible.
the bees are disappearing. Mark Wahlberg, man.
so great. Mark Wahlberg. We
You
already
cheated on me.
we stated he
I
cannot.
can't even do the whiny
He
voice.
can't do-
You cheated on me.
Guys,
I can't.
guys,
It's a Transformer.
we found a transformer. Yeah, that was. I was done with Mark Wahlberg doing serious movies.
But he can do good stuff. He just
freaking.
I get Mark
Boogie
Wahlberg
Nights, man.
apparently is
Yeah.
someone who absolutely has to have good direction.
Well, he did. What
Because
was that?
I've
The
seen-
wrestling movie. I forget what that one. That was good. He did that one.
The Fighter.
The Fighter?
Fighter.
Yeah.
He did The
Well, I
Fighter.
mean,
That was
even
good.
The
Boxing
Departed
movie.
was fine,
Boxing.
which granted that was kind of more stereotypical Wahlberg, but he was fine in The Departed. I really think
Yeah.
it just,
I don't know
you
how we got on
I
that.
don't- we're all
Yeah,
over
yeah.
the place.
It's like, look, Chris
It's
Columbus.
because this movie sucks so bad. We're talking about everything else.
Well, we're
no,
talking
it's
about-
not a terrible movie. It's okay. It's fun for the family.
Exactly.
My kids love it. That's all
exactly
that
what it
matters
is.
to me. If I can put that on and just fall asleep while they have
It's a
fun,
good movie.
then it's a fine movie with me.
Yep.
But
Fair, yeah.
Couldn't agree more.
I don't want to ever watch it again personally.
Oh, I'd watch it
But-
again.
I'd watch it with somebody else for
Yeah,
during the Christmas
yeah.
season.
The first one was it's Santa Claus. How grounded in reality
Well,
can it be?
It's Kurt Russell.
Unless
Santa
you
Claus.
believe in Santa Claus. But the first one was way more grounded in reality than this one, and that was why I give it a better score over this one.
I
This one just
liking
went
it-
full like Christmas fantasy, and the first one was Santa Claus in Boston,
Well,
and I just like
kind of
that.
liking it too, actually, the Santa Claus series, because the first Santa Claus with Tim Allen was much more grounded.
Yeah, then
much
you get
more,
Jack
more,
Frost
more
and all
adult.
that
Yes.
stuff.
And
Yeah.
then you get to the sequel where the second one has the toy Santa, which was terrible, and the third one
Oh,
had
it was
Ja-
awful.
And then the
It
third
was-
one had Martin Short
Martin
as
Short.
Jack. And
Jack
actually,
Frost.
honestly, thought that one was better than the second, just because
See,
it
I
wasn't.
didn't.
Yeah.
I liked
Yeah.
the second one better.
The first
I thought
one.
the second one was at least like him getting a relationship with the principal,
Mrs.
and,
Claus,
and I thought
yeah.
that was kind of nice. Like
I just like
I don't
her.
know. I
love
know
her.
she's a great actress. She's also in Lost.
Yeah.
She's good in Lost. All right, we're moving on. All right, we ready, guys? Are we ready to
Yeah, I
finally
think it's
move
about time.
into our headlines? We've wasted half the show. Let's
That's
get
okay.
to our headlines for this week. It's like
Klaus.
that.
Klaus!
She's here.
You hire actresses like Goldie Hawn to manipulate the children into thinking you're sweet and helpful so you can lure them in with your exploding cookies to explode their heads.
Whoa, man,
Gosh.
this is violent.
She
Klaus.
is. Look at her.
I'm
She's- look
telling
at
you,
her. She's
just-
evil.
She is an evil, evil person. She has that smile, but it deceives everyone.
Mhm.
And she does it intentionally, on purpose, just to pull the children in every Christmas Eve.
Headlines.
All right, our headline this week, we're jumping right into racism. That's right.
Well, we went from hillbilly, so now we got to get to the other
Let's-
aspect.
yeah,
you know?
look, we got to offend everybody
Yeah,
we can.
yeah.
You know, let's offend the hill people, and let's offend, all types of
I mean,
ethnicities.
we're nothing but a bunch of redneck hillbillies from Kentucky. Let's get into it.
Yeah, that's right. So, what would 3 white dudes from Kentucky have to say about racism? Well, this kind of goes back to a controversy from 2009.
That's popped up. Well, it's not that
it's popped up again.
More
It
so
has,
because of the lawsuit. Yeah,
right,
yeah.
because originally what happened was the movie Couples Retreat, starring Vince Vaughn.
Which is not a good movie anyway.
I was gonna say,
I mean, who's throwing a fit over couples
No.
retreat?
it's like
It's like
honestly,
they've run out of shit to throw a fit about. It's like they're scraping the bottom of the barrel.
Well, you
God.
would think the great travesty isn't racism; it's that you were in the movie. I mean, that would really be the worst part about this.
I mean, honestly, I think. Okay, here's where the controversy comes. The international poster removes the only black characters in the film.
Yes.
They're in the
Yeah.
American poster. They're not in the international poster. So there was a lawsuit. But honestly, like
Well,
we
it's-
said,
it's
the
the one-
movie's so
and here's
bad
the
you would actually think you would be
And
okay with you being taken off.
It's
of
crazy,
the
but
poster.
dude, I work
True.
with a guy that looks just like him.
Yeah, what's his name?
It's
It's his
crazy.
last name is Love. Fabian Love, I think.
I know who he's.
Faison
I know
Love.
who you're
Faison
talking
Love.
about from work.
He looks just like him, straight up.
Yeah.
But no, so here's the real controversy. So the reason why this is kind of being brought forth in the actual actor, Faison Love is his name.
If you mispronounce it, you're racist.
Yeah, well, that's
Well, here,
true.
I can-
That's true.
Is
Well,
it,
no,
is
no,
it
no.
like is it like
As
Donald
long as you,
Faison?
Faison is what I think it is.
Faison?
Faison.
I think it's like
Probably
that's-
because like Donald Faison.
I'm gonna call him Mr. Love.
Faison Love.
Oh,
Faison
yeah,
Love.
Faison. I would say
Faison
Faison Love. Yeah,
Okay, so Faison Love. I'm just gonna
it's
call
either
him
Faison or
Mr. Love.
Faison.
Faison
You
Love.
gotta say it like that.
Mr.
Faison Love.
People are really going to be like, "Oh my gosh, they're making fun of his name."
They
We're not
really
making
are.
fun of his name. We're making fun of our own ignorance of not knowing how to pronounce
right,
the name.
because we're white
Privileged.
hillbillies
We're
from
privileged.
Kentucky.
Yeah.
We're privileged, so we
Yeah.
can make fun, I guess. No, the funny thing about it is, so originally, and the reason why he brought forth the allegations are particularly because he went to, I think it's Universal. It's either Universal or Paramount. I forget who distributed the movie.
Universal.
Universal. So he went to Universal originally when this controversy happened back in 2009 when the film released. And apparently it was Vince Vaughn approached him and was like, hey, man, don't make a big deal about it. There's nothing you can prove. Like, it's going to hurt your career. And so he kind of pointed to that as being like people were talking him down. And then he had talks with some studio executive heads who kind of said, hey, we're really sorry. We understand where you're coming from. And it's like, we'll promise you more roles are coming your way. We're going to correct this right. We're going to make it, or correct this wrong. We're going to make it
I've
right.
never seen this actor in anything else.
Nope.
Are you serious? Well, and that,
I mean,
well,
he's been in a couple of other
Yeah, I
comedies
mean,
as a side
but
character.
that's
he's not-
that's
he's
exactly
not
what
had
his
a major
that's what his
career.
lawsuit's alleging.
Yeah.
His lawsuit is alleging that he's only taken this step because the studio promised him something that they never followed up on, and instead, after the movie, probably because it bombed, it said it had a great opening weekend, especially overseas.
I would say
Nobody remembers this movie though.
He's not. Nope. Here's the thing. None of the people in this movie were memorable. I mean, you do have
Vince Vaughn, that's it.
Vince
Well,
Vaughn and
yes, I'm talking about like the big name actors. We know who they are, but I'm meaning the movie itself.
Oh,
like
yeah,
their
yeah, yeah.
performances.
Yeah.
So like yes, like Vince Vaughn, John Favreau, and who's the
I always
other one?
forget his freaking name.
Jason Bateman.
Jason Bateman.
Yes,
yes.
Jason Bateman.
I
They-
love the
they-
guy, but I
yes,
can't remember his
They
name.
are major actors, and yes, they still have careers, but that's because they were big enough to have careers before and
to
continue
begin
on.
with. Yeah.
This movie was terrible, and anybody who wasn't already a big name was not going to have a career after it.
I mean, fair to say. I mean, I wouldn't disagree, but it's like, to me, it's one of those things where I don't. The one thing I have is not a problem with his
look,
lawsuit.
Milan Ackerman was in it, and where'd her career go after that? Nowhere.
Well, I don't even know who that is. So,
She was,
yeah.
she's.
You could
she's-
try to tell me who she is. I don't.
She was
remember.
in Watchmen. She's been in the Harold and
she-
Kumar movies.
Oh
She's
yeah,
been-
she
yeah,
was
yeah.
in. Yeah, she was
She
in.
was
Okay,
she's in a movie with Ben Stiller.
yes.
The kid. What's it called?
I don't remember. I don't know what you're talking about. But she is. I mean, she
all
was.
of those movies are not nearly as good as Couples Retreat, apparently,
Yeah.
because they're not
Actually,
worth
the one with
remembering.
Ben Stiller's pretty funny.
But she was a pretty. Once upon, like in the early 2000s, she was pretty up.
The
and
Watchmen
coming,
was supposed to
so-
probably be her big break.
probably. And
But
look
here,
how
but,
that
but
went.
the thing is, I don't have necessarily a problem with his lawsuit in the sense that he's basically calling them. He's calling a spade in the sense that it's like, if they would have come back and said, "Whoa, whoa, whoa,
Spade.
well, yeah, is that
Is
racist?
I don't know.
I mean, I guess a spade is
spade.
black.
That's another name for a black person,
Is
isn't
it?
it?
What?
Like it's one of them racist names.
I
isn't
don't.
it?
I've always
never
thought a
heard that.
spade
I'm
is a
pretty
tool
sure.
you use to
Yeah.
No,
till your garden.
That's you look it up. That's a racist slang.
Huh.
Are you serious?
Oh yeah.
If it is, I have never heard it
Because
as
it's
racist
black.
slang.
A spade is black.
Yeah,
I
but
don't
I've
know that
always
one.
heard the term.
The cards.
You call a spade is like you just call it what it
I
is.
think you
Yeah,
can look it
I've
up.
heard that
You call
term.
it like it
yeah,
is,
I've heard.
yeah.
Calling a spade a
I've
spade.
never heard of it as
Yeah.
being racist.
I'm gonna look it up.
All right, well, you correct me here on the Red Moon podcast if I'm wrong.
Now I can if I Google to call a spade is a figurative expression. And let's call a spade, not to call it what it is.
Yeah, exactly.
I have heard that before.
That's
I don't
all
know
I've
about the
ever heard it
yeah.
as. I don't. We ain't got to get.
Well,
too,
yeah, we don't need to get into
Yeah.
the spade
Too
is spade.
Urban
racist.
Dictionary says spade is a derogatory term for an African American.
Well,
More
We can't
commonly
avoid
used in the
ever-
post-Civil
I
War
feel
era.
like Urban Dictionary is just around like BuzzFeed. It's just trying to get more clicks, and it just gives you these enticing
I'm
ways
just,
to
I'm,
get more
I'm just.
clicks.
well, we're
Urban
not
Dic-
calling
I
him
didn't-
a spade.
I didn't know what thirsty meant until like 3 weeks ago.
Really?
So I thought it
Well,
meant you wanted
actually-
something to drink. Apparently, Urban Dictionary says it means more than that.
Yeah,
So,
I've heard that's an old term actually.
well, I'm old. I didn't know it.
Yeah.
He's thirsty.
yeah.
He's taking a drink right now.
But no, I agree with you. I don't, in so many ways, have an absolute problem with the lawsuit because there are aspects of it that I could see because it is kind of crappy
Well,
that
I think
a lot
they
of
shot themselves in the foot
Well,
because
yeah, they promised
they
them something
kind
they
of
never
the-
delivered.
they almost admitted wrongdoing by saying, "Oh, we understand where you're coming from." And then obviously never backed it up with any actual meaningful action.
Yeah.
The other problem I have is with the way the article is written. And it's from the Hollywood Reporter, and I have a problem with the way they basically phrase it. For one, anything that goes to a lawsuit, there's allegations.
Yes.
And there's
and you have to
pending
provide
allegation.
evidence.
And
yeah.
and so the way they write it is they strictly point out, like, they're like, no, this racist act happened, and now he's taking it to court. And I'm like,
Well,
you
you have
can't
to-
say that it's just blanketly
you
racist
have to
if
prove
nothing's been
that
proven.
The
They-
article says notorious racist
Yes.
act.
See, yes.
Like,
And that's so
geez.
biased because it's like, okay, it's an allegation. There has to be evidence to prove that what they did is right. And here's the thing: I don't necessarily think is what they did crappy. Yes, because just like with Star Wars, they mentioned that with John Boyega being
Yeah.
taken off the Chinese
Now
poster.
that one,
and that's
I,
really crappy
I
too.
actually particularly see that as a more racist bent
And
because
here's-
he's a main character.
Yes, and
this
here's-
guy clearly is in the background
Yeah.
on the American
poster
movies,
anyways. He's
which
he's the
shows you.
smallest
way
figure,
back in the
And I was
back,
going to say,
yeah.
and let's look at the payroll.
But here's my
'Cause
problem.
I guarantee you, he was not paid as much as John Favreau,
Oh, no.
Jason Bateman, or Vince
Mine's fine.
Vaughn.
No, but
He
here's
was not a big
my problem
name.
with that. It's not necessarily that it's racism. It's the studio's kowtowing to other countries. Anyways, it's like we can't have John Boyega on the Chinese
Exactly.
poster because the Chinese won't allow it because he's black. And it's like, well, then
Exactly.
screw the Chinese. They don't deserve that movie. It's
Yeah.
like you're caving into their racism to sell your movie, and that I'm not okay with.
Right. And I would exactly I would hold the same argument against Universal in that regard.
Yeah.
I would say, yeah, you're right. It's another big name studio that's taken action to make more money.
Yeah.
And absolutely I think that needs to be dealt with regardless. But to just blanketly say this is absolutely ipso facto, like this is a done deal. It's like, no, it clearly isn't. He just brought forth the lawsuit.
It has to
Why
go
the
through
hell
court.
are you
Yeah.
acting as if this is like a done deal? And I'm like, that again just showcases like biased reporting in terms of like from a big name publication like Hollywood Reporter.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like, how can you call yourself a news outlet if you're not reporting on facts? You're obviously putting in your opinion. And it's not listed as an opinion article.
Well, because we all know the media's opinion is facts. I mean, they listen. The media doesn't report the news; they make the news.
No, ooh, that was good.
I like
that
that,
little
Keith.
tagline. Well, what better way to end this discussion than to talk about more racism?
Let's do it.
So, as if it wasn't enough for us to talk about one racist subject, we're just diving right into it this week. That's right. Our next topic is about Mr. Andy Samberg on the whole Oscars inclusion controversy. Look, let
here's
me
my
first
feeling
point out,
towards Andy
I
Samberg.
tried to
the
find...
picture they picked of him to put in this.
Here's the thing. Okay, see,
Hold that up. Hold it up. Hold it up.
everything I see, like I love him as a comedic actor. Like, look
Oh,
at
you
that.
got-
Like,
you gotta
look at that.
There it is.
I can't get the iPad in front of it.
I think he's hilarious. A lot of
need the
things I
mini.
watch him in, I think are hilarious. Brooklyn
Nine-Nine.
is hilarious.
His time on SNL.
I do think he's a funny
Lonely
actor.
Island.
But as a person, every time I hear him talk, I want to punch him in the nose.
Oh yeah.
Because he always says just
He's one person that, just like Kurt Russell was talking about last week, needs to just put
Yeah.
a little
Here's what I'm gonna say
zipper
about Andy
across his
Samberg.
mouth.
There's a show on Netflix that I freaking love called Cuckoo. All right, it's a hilarious show, British show.
Yeah.
They replaced Andy Samberg after the first season with freaking Taylor Lautner.
Why?
That's
wow.
how bad Andy Samberg is. That they got Taylor Lautner to
Really?
replace him, and Taylor Lautner's brilliant.
I wouldn't
in the
say
movie.
he's bad because he has been hilarious in other.
He's
things.
he's fantastic in
I
the
thought
show.
he left Cuckoo
but-
on his own though. I didn't think they fired him.
I'm just saying.
Oh, okay.
It was a joke, Keith.
Gotcha. I thought you were being serious.
no,
that, like,
they got
replaced him.
they got Taylor Lautner to follow up Sandy Samberg.
All I know is that I tried to find more news than this week. There was very limited.
Yeah, you're
So,
scraping the bottom of the
I
barrel
was scraping
now.
the bottom of the barrel, but I did find these
Some
stories. And I
weeks
was
we
like,
have tons of stories.
we
got
gotta
to
talk about it.
nothing.
But my issue is he kind of makes the point of our argument with the whole Oscars
Oh, yeah.
inclusion and the news. His very point is he not only just brilliantly comes up with the phrase "f off" to those who disagree with it, but he also talks about how the entire idea is that
he
you could
digs himself
hire
into a
an
hole.
entire cast of white people and still just hire a few people on the backside behind the scenes
And meet the criteria.
and meet the criteria and,
And
be nominated.
that's our point. Is that
Exactly.
they didn't do anything. Their claim is we're going to fix the diversity issue at the Oscars by
like,
not
no, you
fixing
just-
that
you
diversity
just
issue
gave
at the Oscars.
24 other loopholes around it
Yeah.
Yes.
in your own rules. Like
It's like
it's
instead of
stupid.
But
pointing
it's
out
funny how
or
they.
becoming more diverse, it's like we're going to point out ways in which we're not diverse.
But it's funny how everyone in Hollywood is championing it as the Academy has finally doing something about diversity, and if you don't like it, then screw you. And it's like, but you yourself are pointing out that they did absolutely nothing.
They didn't.
And
maybe
they did what they always did.
maybe
is
that's his argument.
They patted themselves on the back and be like, look what we did.
maybe
we did
his
good.
argument is they're not going far enough. I mean,
Maybe.
he doesn't raise that point on the podcast, but he just simply is saying all these people need to get over it. This is the new norm, and you need to deal with it.
I am over it
But yet
because I
he-
think it's silly and stupid, and
Right.
it's not going to affect anything.
Pointless. Yeah.
Exactly, and that's kind of thing. It's like, well, you're just making more hoops for people to jump through,
Yeah.
or you're literally pointing a spotlight on ethnicity and race being an issue when it probably shouldn't be. Talent should be.
Yeah.
So, like you said, it's like, yeah, any person who hires Andy Samberg, it's like we can check Jew off the list because he falls into the Jew category.
Well, it's
Yeah.
funny
Oh, we got our
how
inclusive numbers there for Jews.
It's
We
all-
need 10 more.
everyone I see praising it are all the white privileged people in Hollywood that careers aren't are like, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
It's like, it's
Yeah.
great. The Academy's doing this, and it's like I haven't seen like one famous black person come out and be like, yeah, this is great. I haven't seen like,
No, they've all criticized it.
yeah, and it's
Because
funny.
they know it's not going to fix anything.
And yeah, and it's just
Well, I think
it's
it's
just
because most
funny.
of them know it's not true. I mean, if you're freaking Denzel Washington and you just rolled out the movie Fences at the Academy Awards a couple
Yes.
years ago, you're not thinking that there's racism in the Academy Awards. Your freaking movie went almost to the, you almost got a Best Picture. I'm just like,
he's
God.
he's an Oscar winner.
Yeah,
so,
I'm just saying
yeah.
it's that's him and the Morgan Freemans. They're not sitting around thinking, man, when am I going to get my shot? When
Yeah,
am
but
gonna
I
get my
bet
chance?"
Tyler Perry's want to know
Tyler
why they haven't.
Perry's-
Jordan Peele. I mean, you have these up and comers, Michael B. Jordan. I mean, it's like
Well, I was
Tyrese
being
Gibson.
Tyrese
I was being sarcastic about the time because
Yes.
I know.
those are the ones like, well, why can't Medea be nominated for an Oscar? Because they're terrible.
Because it's
they're funny.
Medea.
They're
Yeah.
funny because they're terrible.
Exactly.
They're not good.
But again, I think it's kind of funny because a white person talking about this issue,
Yeah.
and of course supporting it, and it's like I just think of all the corporate people sticking Black Lives Matter signs in their yard just to
While
say
they're doing
we're
absolutely
on
nothing."
your side.
We're gonna
but
sit-
don't touch our all white old male
Right.
member board. Don't
Yeah.
do it. Don't touch our stockholders.
Listen, I support you, but don't you drink out of my water fountain over there.
Oh
It's like,
my
well, I mean,
God.
that's kind of how they act. They act like we're on your side and we're going to help you, but we're really not going to do anything because we're rich and white and we're already good to
We'll
go.
pay for the bricks
Yeah,
and we'll have them delivered.
Yeah.
You throw them and you get in trouble.
yeah.
That's it.
All right, I think we beat
I
this.
think
down.
we have.
All right.
Sounds
White,
like it's
white
gonna be
people
a,
are terrible and they don't help anything, but they claim they do.
sounds like it's gonna be a white
That's-
Christmas.
I'm just saying. What they take credit for doing things when they've absolutely done nothing.
is.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Well, it really is. It's kind of like, why are we looking to white people to solve a racist
can
issue?
We please?
That's
can we,
probably.
Can we please talk about the other headline?
Oh,
Can we please talk about the one that just came in as we were getting ready to record?
oh, I forgot.
Go
Yes,
loud.
I don't have it listed.
We've
as
been
don't
a
have it
super
loaded.
political already.
I was
We
gonna
might
say,
as well go
we
all
have
out.
to mention it because it did break, and this will keep us from having to talk
And
about
And
it.
our
everybody's-
good friend Neil sent us an email.
And
on it.
did.
everybody's, I've seen tons of articles about it online already. People commenting.
We don't have to go deep into it, but
The actress formerly known as Ellen Page no longer exists.
is she an actor?
She is now he is now an actor named Elliot Page.
Well, I was gonna say, I think that any actress considers themselves
An actor. Yes.
Yes, an actor is just a non-gender
No.
neutral name anyway.
That's like saying mankind. That's
So why do
that's
they still have
sexist.
Best
It should be
Actress?
That's true.
humankind.
what?
Why do
What'd
they
you-
still have Best Actress then?
Well, that's the thing because everybody knows that they would raise. I mean, maybe we shouldn't. Maybe we should just have
should.
one
Maybe
I
that
best
should
actor
change.
category.
Yeah.
But
See,
if that's
and
the case, then what happens when no women are nominated?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. Would that be the case? Or what if it's all women that are nominated and no men?
Well, if they go by the diversity standards that they've set, there would have to be an equal number of women nominated.
There you go. Would they just increase the category number? That's a discussion for
Another
different
night.
time.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Elliot Page. So obviously Ellen Page,
Yep.
formerly who he was.
Yeah.
I don't want to use the wrong. I don't want to use the wrong.
few
is-
years
well, that's the thing.
ago-
Are we
Yep.
dead naming her when we call
don't
her
know.
Ellen Page?
I'm gonna say her just because of
Biologically,
where I
she's
work.
a female.
You refer to someone by how they were the sex that they were born. If it's on their birth certificate, she's a she. I'm sorry. Get your birth certificate changed if you
Ellen
can.
Page
and then
came
I'll
out
call you
several
a he.
years ago as gay.
Yep.
Okay.
We knew that.
Why
But
did it take
then-
you so long to say it? You were
Well,
like,
because I was trying to
Lesbian.
phrase.
You don't
yeah.
want to. You don't want to ruin the LGBT.
Yeah,
they're so
I
sentimental.
was
Yes.
trying
So
to be
touchy.
non-offensive.
Well, she's
And
a
then
lesbian.
now she has come out and
Not
states
anymore.
that she's not gay because she's transgender and is now a he, Elliot Page. So
I just
that's
think
the full
I think,
story.
I think it is.
basically.
The only thing that made me laugh was the fact that
so confusing.
they like she changed her name to Elliot,
Mhm.
and I'm
Yeah,
like,
it's very
it literally
easy.
is just like, yeah, I was
Most
like,
transgender people
Yeah.
don't
Take
want
a
a
long
name
time to fix
that's
that one.
reminiscent
a
of
lot of
their
the times
older
they
name.
try to do that.
right.
Yeah.
But I just thought it was funny because it's like that usually is the comedic thing. Is like if I was a woman, I'd be Brandy.
Yes.
Yes.
And I'm like,
she
that's-
went with the stereotypical trans name.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Rather, and a lot of
But
John
heaven- but-
becomes Joan.
but a lot
or
of modern
something, you know?
transgender people don't do that now because it is stereotyped.
Yeah.
And they don't want to
Right.
be like Brandon into Brandy. They go with something
I was
completely
saying,
different.
they have
Yeah.
to create a whole new identity.
Um,
It's kind of
But
fun.
that
it's
makes
like,
more
it's like,
sense to me than
it's like
just being
playing
like,
The
I'm Elliot
Sims.
Page now.
It's like playing The Sims. You
Um,
just get to create a whole new bio.
My only thought on the whole issue was that I never cared much about Ellen Page
That's all
before.
we're doing now in 2020.
I don't care
is
about
playing Sims.
him now. Like I didn't care before, and I don't care about him now. So
Exactly.
whatever
Well,
floats,
I
whatever
think-
floats
The last
Elliot
good
Page's
movie
boat.
she was in when she was a
Was
she
Juno,
was
that was
Juno.
it.
Juno.
Exactly.
And I think that you brought it up perfectly. It's like when she tried to become relevant, it was like, well, I have to be gay, so I'm gonna jump on that bandwagon.
Yeah.
Oh, now I have to be a dude.
And
She
I'm gonna
hasn't
say,
been relevant
I hate her
since-
anyway because she criticized Chris Pratt. And
Oh yeah.
you know, as
Can't
soon
do
as she
that.
spoke out about Chris Pratt, she was on my list.
Well, of course,
Like,
that's gonna set you off.
Absolutely.
The funny thing is the other way they're like The Sims is a lot of times when they use the language they do, it sounds like The Sims.
Makes me
Flipperty
wonder.
gibber.
Now I haven't
It's like,
I
don't know
haven't
what they're
seen
saying.
it, so that I'm sure that they'll address it somehow.
Mhm.
But what does this do for her role in Umbrella Academy, where I'm pretty sure she plays a woman? I could be wrong. Maybe she
Oh,
doesn't.
they'll
but
write it in. It'll be
No,
a unique
they
twist.
can't.
It's
because
based off of-
if she's not a woman, then she can't play a woman.
That's true.
Just like a crippled,
Well, I think you can go that
can't
way.
play an Olympian.
It's only when you're in the majority.
no.
Like you can't be a dude playing a woman. That's wrong. But you can be a trans man playing a woman. That's okay.
I think we're 5 minutes over, and we haven't even done our unique
I know.
segment yet.
I know.
All right, let's
There's-
get to
there- we need to do a deep dive on. Maybe we need to get Elliot Page on here. If you want to sit down and help enlighten us, we'd love to talk to you.
Yeah.
Elliot Page, reach out, RMPodcast at redmoonproductions.com. All right, guys, we're moving on finally to our headline topic. We already did that. Our story time segment. Let's roll it.
It's story time, where the podcast members tell their stories.
Story time. Story time. All right, guys, we're talking about Christmas this week. And all month. All of our unique weekly segments are Christmas themed.
oh wow.
You're Christmas themed.
I don't know.
I'm waiting
I,
for multimedia Christmas theme. That's
Oh,
going to
then
be
we could do
interesting.
No, yeah, we'll figure out something.
I'll figure that one out.
We always
I'm gonna
figure
find
these
it.
out right before the show, just like
Yep.
this week's topic.
Sometimes you surprise us with ones.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like to do that.
Yeah.
Kind of like
So
a
what are we talking about
Christmas
this
present. Surprise.
Huh.
All right, so this week, what we are actually talking about Just happens to be, I completely forgot what we were gonna say this week.
Well,
It
once
was
upon a
Christmas
time,
that you didn't get what you wanted, wasn't it?
And I
thought
thought it
it
was
was
how,
how- no.
no. It was how Christmases have evolved as we've gotten older,
Like,
as far
like
as giving and
we-
receiving.
yeah,
When did we talk about that?
before the
that's
show.
Before the show,
did?
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because we couldn't think
I
of
must
anything.
have been eating my cookies during that.
We couldn't
one,
think of
'cause I don't
anything
remember.
that where we had a Christmas we were disappointed.
Well, I
but
know
then
we
did
went.
think
We
about,
went through like a bad Christmas story, and then we went to like Christmas when you didn't get what you wanted.
but we didn't. Neither of us had stories, so
didn't
then
decide on
we
that.
discussed
yeah, we
about
all,
how
okay.
about how like we got like the way we got gifts for our parents as kids versus now and how
Now-
that's
oh yeah.
changed. Yeah.
Wait till you have kids. When
Yeah.
you have kids, you don't get good stuff ever.
Yeah.
Like you don't ever get the
Well,
good
they get
stuff.
the
They
good
get
stuff.
the good stuff.
I don't
I
know.
mean,
You
that's
got an
kind of
Oculus,
as it should
But
be.
when you're an only child like me, it's like, what the hell?
he did get an Oculus.
You got an Oculus from your mom one year.
Was that wasn't for Christmas though, was it?
She
thought
said
it
yeah,
was.
it was for
She
Christmas.
gave it to you early, but
That's
it's for
true.
Christmas.
She
Yeah,
bought
but what
it
do you
for
see
you.
what my kids got? I mean, jeez, they got the
got-
Vive.
Now, to be fair though, she did
No.
say that the Oculus was for you and your kids.
Yeah, it
So
was-
you
yeah, it
might
was.
not, you probably wouldn't have
And
gotten it.
Sawyer really, he actually plays it more than I get to.
Well, it's funny because it's like that's
So.
kind of how you can cheat it.
Yeah.
You can kind of
Yeah.
say, well, the kids really want
Yeah.
this.
Because
But it's
otherwise he
something
wouldn't have
for
gotten
you.
that Oculus.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I
That's
mean,
what we did with the Switch when we floated the money for the Switch. It was like
It's for the kids.
Sawyer's gonna love this.
Yeah.
And he
well,
doesn't
and it was
touch
like
it.
even when I was a kid and we got the PS2,
Yeah.
Mhm.
it was addressed to all of us kids.
But it's really yours.
It was really mine and my brothers. My sister never
That she
played that.
played.
Of course
But
not.
but of course when they give it to us, you can hear my dad say, "This is for the mostly the boys, but you too, Amber." He even says it that way, so it's just kind of like
That's great.
Well, I hope she got something nice.
she did.
Okay.
Then we always
She
we
got the
all my
Barbie
parents
Playhouse.
always did it to where you got a big present.
Mhm.
And it was like presents led up to it, and each one kind of gradually got bigger. But as we got older, obviously, and then Chip and Wendy get married, Jeff and Amber get married. It's like they both
You stopped getting
they,
crap.
well,
Yeah.
they started having kids, and then it's like,
And then
well,
you don't get nothing.
you don't get anything,
Yeah.
or you get a limit. You
Yeah.
get a limit put on. Okay, it was kind of for a while when Elizabeth was the only niece that I had. She had a big present, or bigger presents every year given to her from, of course, Santa, mom and dad.
Santa's
And-
not supposed to give the big presents.
Well, no,
No.
That makes
but-
all the other kids feel bad.
That's true.
My
When
parents always, like I
when
said,
Santa
That's
gets
not
you
the
the
reason I
iPad,
do it. I don't want Santa to show
get
me
the
up.
credit.
That's right. We get the credit for giving the good gifts.
see, my parents always put the big gifts under the tree unwrapped, like they came from Santa.
Right.
So,
Because
like
he
I
doesn't.
mentioned,
He don't have time to wrap.
Yeah,
No.
yeah. Like the Xbox, like because Brandon mentioned his parents always numbered things, and they would give the gifts in an order so that he didn't get
It
the
didn't get
PlayStation game
revealed.
before. But
Yeah.
my parents just put like when the year I got the Xbox, it was just under the tree with the controllers and the games on top of it, unwrapped. So I was like, bam, right there. That's
Boom.
awesome.
You
Yeah.
knew what you got.
But
There's
it
an
was
Xbox.
cool because it's
It
like
doesn't matter what else I got. I don't even.
right.
I don't even
remember-
care.
All
at
the
this
stuff
point.
that was wrapped, you don't even.
I don't remember anything else from that year. I just remember the Xbox.
Well, of course, and it's always the bigger ones. I mean, it's like I remember the PlayStation, the PSP, the iPhone.
I remember the
I mean, my
360.
iPhone was huge. It was like I remember getting that, and I was so mad.
I remember the year I got a Walkman. It was
Wow.
that lime green.
Oh
yeah.
yes,
Yeah,
yeah,
the
like
lime green
CD Walkman.
The CD Walkman.
Oh, yeah,
not
cool.
not an
Yeah.
original.
That's a
Walkman.
Discman.
Yeah. Well,
yeah, Discman.
it said Walkman on it. I may have been generic. Maybe it did say Discman. I don't remember.
I think
I'll say
well,
the disc was
it's
the Sony
Walk-
Discman.
It's
Yeah.
the Walkman line, but it's a Discman.
Yeah.
I think is what
Yeah.
they called it.
Gotcha.
But I remember the year I got my iPhone 3G,
Yeah.
I was upset because my sister and brother, my brother and sister-in-law lived in Toledo at the time, and they were going to come down for Christmas. And my parents were like, "We're going to wait to open presents till they get down here." But that was like 4 days after Christmas, and I was fuming. I was like, "I want to open my presents on Christmas Day."
Now.
And I mean, I'm a little twerp, complaining about it. But the real reason was because I knew I asked for an iPhone, and I wasn't promised it. I was always excited when I got what I asked for, but there was always this one big present I put at my top of my list, and I was just always like, if there's one I could get, this is the really the big one that I would want. And so my
I
parents
still
knew.
do that, but I don't get them anymore.
Your nieces and nephews do.
Yeah, exactly. They get what they want.
Yeah.
But no, it was funny because I remember I was just like so upset thinking I wasn't going to get my iPhone and I was going to have to wait 4 extra days. And they gave me one present to open up before they got down, and it happened to be the iPhone. And I remember looking at them and I was like, all right, we can wait for the rest. And I just remember, I look back now, I was like, man, I was a little nitwit.
I think it's
man.
sacrilegious to not open presents on Christmas Day.
See? Well, and before that, I'll be honest, we went through a period where when we got older and we didn't necessarily believe in the big man at the North Pole, we actually opened up our presents on Christmas Eve, and that
We always
became a
opened up like
tradition.
one, like on Christmas Eve, but just the one.
See, we actually
Yeah.
it was weird. We went back and forth. We went from opening Christmas Day all the time to we were older. I was like now 10, 11 to opening them on Christmas Eve, so we didn't have to wake them up early on Christmas Day. And then as we got older and I was in like high school, we went back. We did the one present on Christmas Eve, and then we opened the rest on Christmas Day. And it was like we just didn't all wake up early, butt crack of dawn. It
Yeah.
was like we waited till like 9 or 10 a.m. when we all woke up.
Yeah.
So we balanced it out. You know, we had some different Christmas traditions, mixed it up a little bit. You know, I think that's kind of how you keep it lively, interesting. What about you all?
I'll say another evolution is I feel like when you first get married, you buy gifts for each other.
Yeah.
You know, you try to really go all out for each other. But then when you've been married 13 years, you're like, we're going to get a vacuum cleaner. And it's for both of us.
That's
Or we're
right.
getting a, you know, my wife wanted a Vitamix, like a really good
Yes,
blender. Because she
yes.
does it every day and
Yeah.
goes through the cheap blenders. And so it's just like, I know that's something that at some point I'll get to use. So it's like we're not really getting gifts for each other anymore. We're getting gifts for us and not
Yeah.
just for her or for me.
Yeah.
So it's kind of weird.
Well, and
But
it's
then
almost like
it
it's
kind
like
of
a
evolves
joint.
into that. Yeah, it's like
a joint gift. It's like, well, I mean, that's kind of what my parents evolved into. They're like, well, if you all are old enough now and you have incomes to where if it's like something you really need or really want, you're gonna go buy it.
Right. Yeah.
But it's like we want to get you something that you may want it, but you won't necessarily go out of your way to get it. So like put that on the list and we'll go ahead and we'll get that for you. And so it's still try to keep it like interesting and it's like a gift that you want.
Should have put that PS5 on that list.
That would never
Yeah.
happen. That would never happen. And that's the thing. Oh, trust me, the price limits of when you grow up, it's like,
Oh, yeah.
no,
Yeah.
you ain't getting up there
Yeah.
anymore. It's like, we're not doing that. And I get it. I get it. Now I see all my nieces and nephews
Yeah.
have the big presents
Yeah.
wrapped around them. And I'm like, well, those days are over.
Yep.
You know? Those Christmases
gone.
just
that was the old Oculus. The Oculus was like this is your last gift.
that's
that
the
you're ever
last
gonna
big
get.
one.
And it was also we're moving to Alabama. We're sorry. Here's this. Here's this to soften the blow of you
All
not
those nights
seeing your
that-
mother anymore. Yeah.
Those nights we won't be able to take care of the kids.
That's right.
Sorry.
Yep.
Alrighty, guys. I think we've had a good story time. Just touched a little bit on.
Did. Got a little over, but that's
holidays.
okay.
That's okay.
It's okay.
I know. It was because of Klaus. That's
And
really what it
Elliot.
was.
And racism.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
We
I
really
mean,
you got to spend time on that subject because it
all the
is
time.
serious.
Well, especially
Systemic.
these days. Yeah,
It
exactly.
is in everything,
Exactly.
including
and
this podcast.
That's right. And the only way you're going to beat it is by talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we want to do here on the
I
podcast.
prefer to beat things with bats.
Well,
See, there you
sorta.
go.
Beat the racism out.
Wow.
With a bat.
Wow. Systemic it is. No further proof than that man right there.
That's right.
Well, I'm gonna beat the racist, not the. I'm not talking about beat. Like I'm gonna find the racist and then just beat them.
Keep digging
Jackie
your-
Robinson
until they're
was
all
beat with a
gone.
bat once, Keith.
Wow.
Well, that's why I'm gonna beat the racist, so they know what it feels like.
Okay.
It's like you did this to Jackie
I just
Robinson.
made that up, by the way. I don't know if that
yeah,
really happened.
and I just feel like we're gonna keep beating around this topic, and we're gonna get ourselves in a lot of trouble that we already are probably in. So
need
I
some
think
sleep.
that's gonna
Let's
do
just- I
it
need
for
some
this.
sleep.
All right, guys. So until next time, I am one of your hosts, Brandon Davidson, alongside our normal new host,
Sean Sebastian.
and
Keith Cheatham.
So until next time, well, I don't know. We'll see you right here live on Tuesday nights, 9 p.m.
Sounds good.
We hope you enjoyed this week's episode. For more reviews, previous podcast shows, and everything Red Moon, visit our website, redmoonproductions.com. You can also like us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter by searching for Red Moon Productions, LLC. We'll see you at the movies.